Vice President Mike Pence is campaigning in Georgia today ahead of the state's 2 Senate runoff elections. The 2 races could determine which party controls the Senate in January. Pence is holding rallies with both incumbent Republicans on the ticket, Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. The vice president is hoping to turn out support to help them defeat their Democratic challengers, Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News campaign reporter LaCrai Mitchell. LaCrai, thanks for joining us. So what is Vice President Pence hoping to accomplish in Georgia today?
Well, you hit the nail on the head in that he's there today for one reason, and that is to rev up enthusiasm and momentum within the Republican Party ahead of these highly anticipated Senate runoff races that will be taking place. Today, during the first of 2 rallies that he's scheduled to attend in Georgia, he told voters that he was there because the president sent him and wanted him to be there to help get Senator David Perdue and Senator Kelly Loeffler reelected so that they can hold the Republican majority within the Senate. He also told voters that his team will continue to fight. The Trump campaign is going to continue to fight, he said, until every legal vote is counted, and that no matter what the outcome is, he said that they will continue to fight to make America great again. And he went on to add that is why it is so important that their supporters get out and help to reelect Senators Perdue and Loeffler. The other thing I note, though, is that, during this first rally, he started to list off the accomplishments, what he described as the accomplishments of the Trump campaign, and it was quite reminiscent of the same speeches that we heard in the weeks in the run-up to the general election. And what he did is he tied those accomplishments and then came back and thanked the senators for being supporters for the different efforts that they have undertaken as they've been in the office. And so it is really this message of, hey, we're here for Perdue and Loeffler. You need to be here for them by coming out and casting your vote for them in this January 5th runoff.
So then what is the latest on these Senate races ahead of the January runoff? I mean, what have these candidates been up to? We know both parties are just pouring money into these races.
Yes, absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, from Election Day through the Senate runoff, Kantar CMAG data shows that there's slated to be $171 million spent in these Senate races in Georgia. In addition to the money being spent in advertising, though, I will say that you have seen both campaigns, or all 4 campaigns, so Senators Perdue and Loeffler, but also Democratic challengers Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock, they've all been out and they've been appealing to voters in different campaign events, sometimes in joint campaign efforts. This morning you saw where Reverend Warnock, the Democratic challenger against Loeffler, he announced his additions to his campaign leadership team. He's released that they're making a targeted effort to the AAPI communities. So you've continued to see releases and statements, but also you've seen that these races are already getting pretty contentious in terms of, as the candidates try to make contrasts between themselves and their opponents. We've seen the negative ads. We've seen a lot of times where some of these candidates are having to defend what's being put out against them by their opponent. And so I will say that, as we are less than 2 months out from this race, I expect that you will continue to see, in the fervor of the campaigns trying to rev up this excitement with their base, that they will continue to hold these events, because as operatives have told me, it's very hard to gauge what the voter turnout will be in January, because we haven't even seen a Senate runoff in Georgia since 2008, and the political climate then was quite different. And so what you're going to continue to see is these candidates are going to be making the push to their supporters to come out in the middle of the holiday seasons to early vote, and right after New Year's during that January 5th Senate runoff.
Right. And speaking now about the presidential race, Georgia finished its hand audit yesterday. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger declared President-elect Biden had definitively won the state. Here's what he told reporters. Let's listen.
I live by the motto that numbers don't lie. As Secretary of State, I believe that the numbers that we have presented today are correct. The numbers reflect the verdict of the people, not a decision by the Secretary of State's office or of courts or of either campaigns.
So, LaCrai, the Secretary of State's office says it will certify the election results. Tell us about this. Is this then the end of the presidential race debate there in Georgia?
Not quite. So today, the state law says that the Secretary of State's office needs to certify the results by 5 p.m. today. However, there is a provision within that state law that says that if the Secretary of State's office for some reason felt like they needed more time, they could get a court order to extend that. But I'm being told by officials in their office that they are feeling very confident that they're going to get these statewide results certified by today at 5 p.m. And what that means is at that point, you will have this certification, and the candidate who came up short within less than 0.5%, in this case that's President Trump's campaign, they can then call for a recount, and they have 2 business days to do that. But I will also say, something that is important to mention about this hand audit that was completed yesterday. You had the executive director of Voting Works come out and say that the difference between the reported results and the full manual tally is well within the expected error rate of hand counting ballots. And so they are calling this hand audit a success. You heard Secretary Raffensperger say it this morning. And so they are feeling confident that this hand audit did prove and did uphold the results that they came to on election night. And like I said, their office is telling me that they are hoping and they are confident that they will be able to meet their deadline today at 5 p.m. to certify those election results.
And then yesterday, the Trump campaign responded in a statement saying, quote, this so-called hand recount went exactly as we expected because Georgia simply recounted all of the illegal ballots that had been included in the total. So, LaCrai, they still have not provided any evidence of this so-called illegal activity. So is there any legal action the president can take on this state now that the state will move to certify these election results?
We saw just as recent as yesterday where a civil complaint against Secretary Raffensperger was dismissed, where it was being called for absentee ballots not to be tabulated from the 2020 general election. At this point, what we are looking to see is whether or not the Trump campaign will call for this recount. And as I stated a little earlier, they can ask for this recount because they are within that margin. Right now, President-elect Biden is ahead by 12,500 votes. Ahead of President Trump, according to the data on the Georgia Secretary of State site. And so that is within that 0.5% margin. The other thing I'll add is that if indeed they do call for this recount, this time it will be a recount done using machines. So this will not be the hand audit times 2. This will actually be a recount where they run the ballots through these high-powered scanning machines, and they have these 2 business days to do that. That is well within their right by the state law in Georgia for them to call for that. So that's what we'll be waiting to see if they do that.
All right. Well, LaCrai Mitchell, thank you so much. We appreciate it.